What if she never loved you but simply knew exactly how to make it look like love? What if the affection you received, those sweet gestures, needy glances, and calculated words, wasn't love, but strategy? Machiavelli said that the most effective form of power is the one that shapes perception, not the one that imposes obedience by force. Now imagine that applied to love, to your love, to the woman who said she only wanted your good. You, like many men today, we're trained to believe that women love by nature, that their surrender is pure, that their affection is unconditional. But that's a narrative, and like any good narrative, it hides more than it reveals. No one loves without wanting something in return. Not you, not her. The difference is you think you're choosing, while she watches, calculates, and strikes the exact note to lead you where she wants. The theater of affection begins like this. She smiles when you yield. She grows silent when you say no. And suddenly, without realizing it, you begin adjusting your desires to match her expectations. Because deep down, you fear losing the little approval you still have. You confuse silence with disappointment, absence with punishment, and affection with currency. I miss you. After everything I've done for you. Phrases like these are not expressions of love. They're emotional commands in disguise. Invisible strings pulled by someone who understands that your greatest weakness isn't loneliness, it's guilt. And that's why she never yells. She just suffers. Because suffering is the most effective trap for the emotionally guilty man. Machiavelli didn't speak about love. He spoke about power. And the woman who understands the power of conditional affection is more dangerous than any tyrant, because she rules without raising her voice. She commands without admitting she commands. She plants the idea and makes it seem like it was yours. That is the supreme art of manipulation. The illusion of autonomy. Have you ever felt like you were losing your essence? That your decisions weren't really yours anymore, but constant adaptations just to keep the peace? That peace isn't peace. It's surrender. It's the exact point where your will was tamed out by force, but by emotion. You didn't become weak. You were sculpted, like a statue shaped by hands that whispered, "I just want what's best for you." Affection, when used as a tool of control, is the most sophisticated weapon, because no one suspects it. Society applauds it. Friends find it cute, and you smile, but inside, you're in ruins. You're exhausted, because every man who lives to maintain the affection of a woman he fears losing isn't living anymore. He's just surviving inside an emotional cell decorated with conditional love. In the theater of affection, love is the stage. Fragility is the costume, and guilt is the hypnotic light. And you, without realizing it, have become a character in a play where the real protagonist, her is the idea you have of her. Machiavelli would be impressed. Now that you've seen the strings, do you have the courage to cut them? If this content made you think, drop a comment below. When did you realize you were reshaping yourself to hold on to love? Or are you still stuck in this theater, unaware of the script? Your story might awaken someone else. And if you want to keep exposing the invisible structures that govern your relationships, subscribe to the Alchemistry channel. Here, we don't offer comfort, we offer consciousness. You see, many men trapped in this web carry not just guilt but a mission, a subconscious belief that they must save her, from her trauma, from her sadness, from the ghosts of every man who hurt her before. And she fuels this belief, intentionally or not. She tells you you're different, that you get her, that she finally feels safe. And you, already starving for purpose, step into the role with pride. But what if that role was designed not to heal her but to break you? This archetype of the savior isn't about nobility, it's about control. Because when your love becomes a rescue mission, your freedom becomes irrelevant. Your needs are always secondary. Your pain always postponed. You stay, not because you are loved, but because you are needed. And there is a twisted comfort in being needed until you realize that your presence is measured only by how much you tolerate. And here's the truth, most men never say out loud. Deep down, you feel replaceable. Not because she threatens it, but because her affection is always contingent. One misstep, one unmet expectation, and you're back to square one, earning your way in again, like a boy trying to impress his mother. And that's no coincidence, because this guilt, this fear of being bad, of being abandoned, didn't start with her. It started in your childhood. You were taught early that love was conditional, that approval had to be earned, maybe through good grades, quiet obedience, or emotional invisibility. Maybe you learned that to be loved, you had to not need too much, not speak too loud, not feel too big, And now, as a man, you're reenacting that script, still trying to be the good boy, the reliable man, the one who stays calm while she storms, the one who doesn't break even when he's broken inside. But Machiavelli would say, the man who lives to please others is already conquered. You must see this clearly. Her behavior is not the cause of your suffering. It is the mirror reflecting a deeper wound. Your belief that you are only worthy when you serve. That love is something you earn by staying quiet. But here's the truth. You were not born to be a sponge for someone else's pain. You were not built to be the emotional landfill of another's unprocessed trauma. You are not a container. You are a force. And it's time to remember. But breaking free isn't just about awareness. It's about detox. Because emotional manipulation isn't just a pattern, it's an addiction. You get hooked on the highs of her affection, the brief moments of intimacy, the way she can make you feel seen, valued, powerful. And just like any addict, you tolerate the withdrawal symptoms, the coldness, the distance, the subtle punishments. You endure them in silence, just for a hit of her warmth again. This is the cycle. Reward, neglect, reward, neglect. And over time, your nervous system adapts. Your sense of normal shifts. You begin to associate instability with love. You stop trusting peace. You crave the tension, the emotional suspense. You'll confuse adrenaline with attraction. And Machiavelli would warn, the prince who grows accustomed to chaos will always fear calm, because calm reveals the truth. And the truth is, it's not about her anymore. It's about you. About the parts of you that were never allowed to speak. The needs you were taught to ignore. The anger you suppressed to keep the peace. The dreams you buried to be responsible. Freedom starts the moment you allow those voices to return, not as rage, but as clarity. But clarity is painful. Because once you see the game, you can't unsee it. You'll begin to notice the patterns everywhere, in other relationships, in your past, even in your parents. And then the grief comes. The mourning, not just for the love you never received, but for the man you never got to become while performing someone else's role. And that's when the ritual must begin. The cutting. Not with anger, but with finality. You'd stop explaining. You'd stop chasing. You stop negotiating your worth in the currency of someone else's instability. You speak less and watch more. You reclaim your time, your solitude, your instincts. And yes, it will be lonely, but it's the kind of loneliness that heals, that restores, that prepares you to meet yourself again, this time, without the guilt. This is the reckoning, the moment the curtain falls and the echo of her disappointment fades into the silence you've been taught to fear. And in that silence, something emerges, not weakness, but self. Not a void, but a voice. The one that's been buried beneath years of guilt and people pleasing. It doesn't shout. It doesn't beg. It simply says, enough. There is no applause here. No audience. No validation. Only the raw clarity of solitude. And that's what makes it powerful. Because for the first time, your choices aren't reactions, they're declarations. You don't stay to prove you're good. You don't leave to punish her. You walk away because your soul has outgrown the script. Machiavelli would call this the reclaiming of inner sovereignty. The point where a man stops asking to be chosen and chooses himself. You stop contorting your identity for approval. You stop explaining your truth. You stop engaging in the emotional tug-of-war that always ends with you apologizing for bleeding after being cut. You will be called selfish, cold, unreasonable. That's part of the game. That's the price of the exit. Because the manipulator only thrives when you doubt yourself, when you need their approval to feel sane. And the moment you stop needing it, their power disintegrates. Like a tyrant exposed before a crowd that no longer fears him. Let them call you what they need to. Let them write you as the villain in the story they tell others. Your silence is your sovereignty. Your clarity is your defense. And your detachment is your liberation. You'll be tempted to return, not to but to the role, to the familiar rhythm of guilt and reward. Because it is easier to be who you've always been than to become who you are meant to be. But remember, there's no peace in returning to a battlefield disguised as a home. You've already died there once. Don't do it again. Instead, rebuild. Slowly. Intentionally. Surround yourself with truth, not comfort. With people who value your essence, not your submission. Practice saying no. Practice sitting in discomfort without rushing to fix someone else's feelings. Practice being the man who no longer dances for and in time, something beautiful happens. Your energy changes. You stop attracting chaos. You stop magnetizing pain. You stop feeling drawn to those who only recognize your value when it's convenient, because you've changed your center. And a man with a solid center cannot be manipulated. He can be loved, challenged, respected, but never owned. So ask yourself now, without fear, without shame, who are you when no one needs you to be anything? If this ending spoke to something ancient inside you, comment below. Tell us the moment you stopped being her puppet, or the moment you realized you still were. Either way, your truth matters. And if you want more content that doesn't flatter, doesn't seduce, but reveals, subscribe to our, because this isn't just about women, or guilt, or even love. It's about power, and a man who reclaims his power, reclaims everything. But let's be clear, reclaiming doesn't mean isolation. It means conscious rebuilding. You begin to design your reality with intention. You stop reacting to chaos and start creating your order. You decide who has access, not based on charm, but on consistency. You no longer confuse chemistry with character, nor do you assume that history obligates loyalty. You choose connection that nurtures, not connection that drains. And yes, you'll feel the withdrawal, the longing, even the shame. But don't run from it. Sit with it. Let it burn. Because from that fire, a new archetype is born, not the savior, not the servant, not the silent martyr, but the sovereign man. The man who sees, who chooses, who knows. You'll start to speak less and observe more. Your words become sacred, not tools to defend yourself, but extensions of your presence. Your silence no longer seeks approval, it creates space. And in that space, others reveal themselves. The manipulative ones panic. The real ones rise. And maybe, one day, someone will enter your life who doesn't demand your sacrifice, but celebrates your wholeness. Who sees your clarity as power, not a threat. But until then, stay loyal to your awakening. Don't let the noise of old patterns drown out the song of your becoming. This is your revolution. And it doesn't need an audience. It just needs you.